sell it, you could say. Anyways. Sorry, I get on these explosions of thought, because this is why I'm using YouTube as well, because I feel this is a real neat way, especially if you use blogs, is that, conveying information to you. And I hope it's helpful information to whoever's listening, by the way. And just to let you know, hey, there's a like-minded guy that thinks, or that wants to think, or wants you to think. That's the other thing. I want you guys listening to this to think. And to think about whatever. And, either I spark a train of thought in your mind and you diverge off in some other direction, or I give you something that you've never thought about before. So that's the other thing. I hope you learn something from me, because that's why I'm going to try to throw in a lot of historical and social and scientific references, and even religious references. Because, there's one thing that's kind of seemed important to me and interesting to me is that, you need to study religions, because religion really explains human character. It really explains how human character and human society is formed. And you don't have to be religious. You can have a deep appreciation of religion. And that's what I feel I have, I understand what, the Trinity, transubstantiation, a bit of the Holy Trinity, Holy Ghost Spirit. I know I'm really interested in the history that, they want perceived. And I dig the social atmosphere. Very positive social atmosphere. You really feel good when you're in a group of people and you're talking about good, positive things. And that's what, good, that's what I'm saying. It's good speech, right? Good speech making. Good rhetorical skills. You learn these rhetorical skills and person skills, and can, convince anybody of anything. Watch that, Tom Jones, history special. And it was on the, History Discovery, or I think it might have been the History Channel. But when it comes back on, definitely check that out. So, I think also if you're a social scientist in some way or another, which I could be, but social observer, a modern day poet in my own way. So, some guys say man, you're not an artist, and I said, man, I don't feel I'm a true artist, but I think I'm an artist. That I'm on that pursuit, and because frankly, what do artists do? Artists try to improve society. Artists try to influence society. They try to help society, and they do it in different ways. And it's I'm not saying you have to think this way. I'm just saying, well, here's a different way to think about it. Imagine if you had this personality kind of train of thought in your mind, and this is what I was talking about. Is that in the olden days, kings and queens sitting around, royal family, they got lots of spare time because they're kings and queens. What do? Well, they talk. And what do they talk about? Well, they talk about their family histories. And why? Because, their family histories are very important. Family histories also are important because they help you in keeping track of land you own and control. You basically, so you understand about, whose land do you own, and who has loyalty to you. There's common ancestry and things and stuff like that. Because remember, it's feudal system is the way they operate. So, but they're going to talk to each other a lot. They're going to talk about family histories. They're going to share family histories with each other, and that helps them establish things like warfare with each other over pieces of land. Let's see. So that's the hierarchical society of medieval ages. So that's what people talk about. And so if you understand all this history, and also all social local history, that becomes your knowledge. That becomes your basis of teaching people. Because that's the other thing, is that you're teaching statecraft. You're teaching history, and you're teaching social values through the teaching of history. So that's what the lords are doing. The common people are doing about the same thing. They're telling stories about the mythology, and they are teaching family histories. So, and that's why, and really they realized you had to do that to establish these dynasties. So in a way you can say dynasties were, for one thing, a dynasty has always had a religious connotation to me. And I think the reason why is because, a dynasty that has basically established and lasted is because the people realize one thing: you have to honor the gods. You have to keep a real strong honor to the gods and to religion, especially in the eyes of the people. Because if you are devout in the eyes of the people, and you say good things and good things happen, then God is pleased with you. And then if you also channel, or basically set yourself up as a sort of a spokesman for the gods, and that's a unique, interesting aspect of society. And that's like what Queen Elizabeth, or like Henry VIII, what he was doing, is that's why he was able to justify the break with the church, because he said, look, I am, as King of England, I am a conduit for religion. I am a conduit to God. Therefore I am in charge of the Church of England, establishing Anglican things. So that interesting aspect is that, if you can basically walk the line of religion, you can manipulate a mass group of people. Now, I hate to bring it up, but there was a guy who's one of the spokesmen for the power churches, but he's also the head of like the Power Church League. I don't know the full details about it, actually. I should look that up. But he's a guy who would have regular conference calls with George Bush, President George Bush, and George W. Bush. And there's a couple guys like that. And it's just very interesting that, okay, so why is this man who's the head of the religious church speaking with the head of the United States in some way or another? And it's just, I don't know, I'm kind of curious, well, conspiracy theory, but anyways. Why am I getting out? I'm trying to talk about who wants to be a superhero. Sorry. It's meandering, wandering thought, and I apologize to anybody listening. It's just the way I'm thinking, and I just like to bring up thoughts and questions. So, and it's like, I hate when I get into a train of thought about something, a question pops up in my mind, and I don't explore that line of questioning. So, because I'm always curious, like, what will that line of questioning send me? What will I come up with? So that's a philosopher's trick of exploring thought, by the way, is that you kind of make it like a storytelling game. And that's how you write out the philosophy for people to think about it and understand it. So I kind of think of myself as a philosopher. I took only like one course of philosophy, but I think, you take one course of philosophy, you understand philosophy. And actually I learned more from like reading English about philosophy than from a philosophy class. But taking a philosophy class, it really helped. It put a different spin on explaining what people wrote in English. Because remember, when you go to college, by the way, part of college is that you listen to somebody and he's going to give you a line of thought. And that line of thought is reasoning and background and basis for an idea, for something going on in the literature in some ways. But I mean, that's kind of like in a way it is, even and with history as well. I mean, but so all the liberal arts is kind of like you add philosophy to your facts, and it gets it from varying degrees, from wildly philosophical to very mundane basis. This is the organization of society, but it's basically understood as that. And the reason why is because, you need social scientists. I think it's understood in any society that, you have some people who they'll be educated and they'll be able to, organize other people. And they have other people who will be less educated and they have to be organized, And it's just, so, like the way I explained that, by the way, basically says, look, it doesn't matter if you're stupid or if you just work better alone or if you have a job and you just don't have anybody to work with you or under you. You always have to have somebody working above you. So you can have a job that, you have a boss, but, still it's because you need that, kind of thing, you know what I mean? So, because I want to be egalitarian and how whatever ridiculous what I'm saying is. Why am I saying all this stuff? So I should be talking about who wants to be a superhero. But like I said, anyways, different ways to organize society are like that. So, and one way is through religion. That's something to keep in mind about Mexico, is what I've heard strongly and evidenced by a good friend of mine, but I'm not too sure about his judgment, so take this with a grain of salt. There is a sentiment that the Catholic Church in Mexico is under the thumb or under the control in some way or another of the government, and especially like back in free times. And